Okay. We are at 11:30, so in respect of everyone's time, we will get started. My name is Michelle Baltz. I am solid waste manager for Hamilton County R3Source, and this is a public input session for our solid waste plan. So how this is going to work is I have a very short, less than 5-minute presentation for you all to just to highlight a little bit about what the plan is and some of our bigger residential programs. And then we have Karen Lucan on from EESI, and she is going to kind of facilitate this session.
So it's going to look like
has some questions to ask of you, but we also are really eager. I'm so pleased there's so many people on. This is fantastic. We really want to spend most of the time hearing from you. So that's why my presentation is going to be super short. Certainly, if you have questions about our programs, you can ask those. If you have concerns, if you have ideas, that's what we're here for today. So we want to hear from you. So to kick it off, I am going to, Karen, do you think I should do my presentations first, or do you want to do the intros first?
Why don't we do intros? You know, all of us are a little bit zoomed out at this point. So let's pretend we're in a room and we're all seeing each other. And as Michelle said, the entire purpose of this is for us to get your input of where you would like to see solid waste recycling and composting go the next 5 years. So
well, Karen, I'm going to mute and let you call on people to introduce themselves. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Okay,
and I'm just really short introduction.
Yes, and I'm going to just do it based on my screen. And if you feel comfortable, put your camera on just so we can say hey. The other thing, if you're not introducing yourself, please put yourself on mute. So very quickly, as Michelle said, my name is Karen Lucan. I run Economic Environmental Solutions International. I'm doing work in 4 different continents right now, but my heart and passion is my home, which is Cincinnati, Ohio, and helping Hamilton County progress the waste system. The next is Karen Hurley.
Yes, I'm Karen Hurley. I'm a member of the Hamilton County Solid Waste Policy Advisory Committee, and I'm here to listen.
Thank you, Karen. The next is John Anderson. And John, you're on mute. Oh, you were off for a sec.
Now I'm off of mute.
Okay.
I'm John Anderson. I'm a resident of Maple Knoll, and I'm on a technology committee with a subcommittee involved with recycling.
Thank you, John. The next is Haskellfeld. Sorry, I don't see your first name. Sorry.
Oh, Doug Haskell. I'm a retired professor of economics at UC, worked with a number of local environmental organizations over the years, teaching teachers to teach environmental topics.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doug. Sharon Lutz.
Hi, I'm Sharon Lutz. I'm a resident of Whitewater Township here in Hamilton County. I'm also navigator for We Thrive in Whitewater Township. I am working on efforts to try to increase recycling in Whitewater Township. So I'm hoping to learn something from this meeting to try to increase the recycling efforts.
Very good. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you.
you.
Alex Gonzalez.
Hello, I'm Alex Gonzalez. I'm a health educator at Hamilton County Public Health for the We Thrive initiative. Just here to kind of see what's going on.
And what is We Thrive?
We Thrive is an initiative of Hamilton County Public Health, and we are in communities throughout the county. And we have community teams who work on a variety of different things, a lot of them environmentally health focused. And we also have councils for these communities sign a resolution to improve the health of their constituents. So.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And it looks like we have one of your coworkers at We Thrive. I don't see your name though.
That's okay. I'm on our Zoom account. My name is Nicole Key, and I am also a health educator with the We Thrive initiative. I actually work with Sharon in Whitewater Township and a bunch of the other West Side communities So like Sharon said, I'm just interested to see what I can glean from this and what we can implement in Whitewater Township.
All right, thank you. And you said it's Nicole?
Yeah, it's Nicole.
Nicole, all right, thank you. I'll write that down. Ms. Sue Magnus.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue with the City of Cincinnati, and I'm a member of the Hamilton County Solid Waste Policy Committee. And I'm here to listen today. Thank you all for coming.
All right, thank you. Our next individual is Joe. No last name.
That might be me.
Hi, I'm Joe Zucker. I live in Hyde Park. I'm just a concerned citizen. I'm doing all I can to recycle now, and I want to see what else I can learn.
Thanks. Thank you, Joe. Susan Schumacher.
Hey, I'm Susan Schumacher. Hamilton County Recycling, or I'm sorry, Hamilton County R3Source now. I'm the Assistant Solid Waste Specialist.
And Susan, I will probably do that at least 5 times tomorrow at the meeting. It's been the district for many, many years.
Yes.
And then there's a name, DeFerrier, if I'm pronouncing that properly.
I think that's Dean Ferrier.
Thank you. Dean? Okay, we'll come back to Dean. Someone named Environment.
That's me, Karen. Right, Gwen from the city
Hey!
of Forest Park.
Bye.
I try to stay under the radar.
That's okay. I'll find you wherever you are. You know that.
But I'm always interested in what the district is doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Wright. Elise Earhart. Okay. We have an M. Ockenhazen.
Good morning, Michelle Ackenhausen, Ohio EPA, and I'm just interested in listening today.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Ken Wright.
Hi, I'm Ken Wright, and I'm a member of Faith Communities Go Green, which is what it sounds like. Houses of worship are interested in green themselves. And I'm also a member of Maple Knoll along with John Anderson.
All right, Maple Knoll, you're kind of going to be the leader for retirement communities for us. We have some things that we need to chat about. Mr. Tim Mara.
Hi, I'm Tim Mara. I'm a member of the Oxbow Board of Directors, which owns a 1,400-acre preserve at the mouth of the Great Miami River.
All right, thank you, Tim. I think it's an A. Cole. Looks like the last name is Cole. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, we still can't hear you. Maybe if you can just put in the text. And then we've got a couple of people on phones, but a couple other people that we have names for. It looks like Commissioner Driehaus is joining us.
Hello. I'm delighted to be here. I've only got like 30 minutes, but I'm excited about the conversation. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Denise. There's a couple of names on here that have been around in my life for a while. Right. It looks like we've got Ms. Hobbs. Shelley?
Yes, hi, I'm Shelley Hobbs with Anderson Township Public Works.
All right, thank you. Gage?
Hi, everyone. I'm the community specialist here with Hamilton County R3Source.
All right, thank you, Gage. Mimi's phone. And then we've got a couple other people dialing in. If you would like to introduce yourself, please feel comfortable doing that. All right, Michelle, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
I think that we have a second page of people, so we have to.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Wow, this is outstanding. Okay. Let's see. How about Jeff Weichbach?
That's close enough. Jeff Weichbach, Assistant Administrator with Coleraine Township. So we're home to the Rumpke landfill.
All right. All right. Molly Yeager.
I am Molly with Rumpke Waste and Recycling. I'm here today to listen in the conversation and address any specific recycling questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. I guess we already did A. Cole. Cher?
Hi, I'm Cher Maureen with Hamilton County Resource. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator, and I'm here to listen and learn.
Okay, thank you, Cher. And you guys are moving around a little bit on me, so my apologies if I call on someone twice or miss somebody. Sean DeShawn.
Hi, my name is Sean DeShane. I'm a master composter and frequent reader of Michelle's compost confession blog. I'm here today to learn more about how we can turn trash into new usable products, whether that's through composting or recycling or any of the other methods.
All right, thank you. Lindsay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lindsay Way. I am calling in as a new to Hamilton County resident, relatively new, just listening in. I, from a professional standpoint, am a researcher and a strategic planner. I work with a lot of small organizations, mostly in the food systems world. So I come to this kind of from that angle, and an avid composter on my own property. So looking forward to learning.
Welcome to Hamilton County, home of the Cincinnati Bengals and Red.
Thank
you
you.
see? Let's see, how about Laura Miller?
Hello, I'm currently enrolled to earn my Master's of Sustainability, Security, and Resilience at Ohio University. And I was doing some research yesterday and came across information about this meeting, so thought I would join.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Larry Fradkin. Okay, Brad Johnson.
Thanks, Karen. I'm the director of Hamilton County Department of Environmental Services, which includes Hamilton County Resource, and very excited with the audience we have. So thanks for being here, and I'm excited to hear what people have to say.
I am too. Thank you, Brad. Gwen Roth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gwen Roth, and I work for the Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm also a board member on the fairly new Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. So interested in learning more about this topic.
All right, thank you. Brendan Menden. Okay, Tony Staubach.
Hello, I'm Tony Staubach. I'm the Food Waste Diversion Coordinator for Hamilton County Resource. So I'm here and excited to learn more from all of you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And again, my apologies if I missed anyone. If anybody would like to introduce themselves, please go ahead. And if not, we'll spend a little bit of time, as Michelle said, sharing what Resource does, but then we really want to hear from you. So, Michelle.
Thanks, Karen. So I'm going to try to keep my presentation as short as possible because there are a lot of you and I want to hear what you all have to say. If for some reason you have to hop off and you don't get to communicate what you wanted to say, or you have some ideas that you'd like to go into deeper talks about, please let me know. I will put my email in the chat and you can send me an email and we can meet, or we can talk over email, or you can just send me your ideas. So I'm going to quickly go through some of our bigger residential programs. I can get this to cooperate. Is everyone seeing the presentation? You could just give me a thumbs up. Yes? Okay. Yes. So this is, like I said, we are in our process where we are updating our solid waste plan. So we operate a 15-year solid waste plan. This is required by Ohio EPA that we updated every 5 years, and it takes about 2 years to write. So we're updating it quite frequently, which is a good thing. But really in this process, we look at all of our programs and look at our diversion rates, how much we are sending to the landfill, what we're sending to the landfill, how can we do more to reduce how much waste is going to the landfill. So Hamilton County Resource, our mission is to reduce how much waste goes to the landfill. We work with businesses, schools, residents, basically anyone who creates trash, we have programs to help them reduce that waste. So I could probably spend the whole hour talking about our programs, but I'm not going to do that because I want to hear from you. But we do, we really do have quite a lot that we're doing. Most of what I'm going to focus on right now is our just big residential programs. So we do have a House of Hazardous Products drop off. It is a one-day annual drop off event right now. In the past, we've had a semi-permanent drop off. It really just depends on who the contractor is and what's available to us. So we, right now, the last few years have had a one-day drop off. We've moved it around, had it in Norwood, had it in Madisonville, but basically you bring all of your products that would be considered hazardous, you know, old gasoline or batteries or pesticides, pool chemicals, and you can drop them off to be properly disposed and sometimes recycled at these events. Another big event that's pretty popular is our compost bin sale and our seminars. So those are launching right now. So we have seminars where we teach backyard composting. We go out to half a dozen or so communities to have some virtual and teach people about backyard composting. And then we bring in someone who sells compost bins and gets to sell them, you know, at bulk prices, really cheap. We even often subsidize that cost to try to get people composting in their backyard. Another program that we have is our yard trimmings drop-off program. This is open from March to early December. We have 3 locations in Anderson Township, Coleraine Township, and Green Township. And people can bring their leaves, their brush, other yard trimmings to these locations to be composted. Another big program that we have that we spend quite a bit of money on is residential recycling campaigns. So really encouraging people to recycle more, recycle better, reduce contamination. This is a little picture from our recycling coach campaign that we did a couple years ago. We're launching right now our Lucky the Dog recycling campaign. So you may see a recycling dog coming out, but just trying to get the word out about what you can recycle and how to recycle better. Another more recent campaign that we've started is our Wasted Food Stops With Us campaign to try to encourage residents to reduce how much waste, food waste they are creating in their homes. So this is all about shopping right, about you know, preparing the food, storing the food so that less food is wasted at your home. Of course, we have lots of social media. I encourage you to follow us on social media. I'm required to say this in every slide, but we have some great content also and great education on our social media channels as well. So this is our website, hamiltoncountyresource.org. Any way you type it, whether you type a 3 or an E, it'll bring you to the right spot. But I am going to end my slide because I'm eager to hear from everybody else. And hand it over to you, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michelle. Since we have such a good turnout, I'm thinking maybe the best way to approach this, one of our first key questions are what are the most pressing solid waste, recycling, composting issues facing Hamilton County and that you would like this next 15-year plan to address. So I'm going to ask someone to just go first and say, what is your most pressing concern or what would you like the plan to address? And then I'm going to open it up to the group of getting some feedback, some more conversation going. The other thing, just so everybody knows, is that in addition to the meeting today, we gave residents an opportunity to respond to a survey that has many of the same questions that we're going to be addressing. Right now, about 800 people have responded to that survey. So obviously solid waste recycling and composting is an important issue in this county, which is exciting times. So as I said, my first question for the group is what is that most pressing issue? And I am going to hope someone volunteers. If not, I'm going to be draconian and call on somebody. So, and again, this is a little easier for all sitting in the same room, but we're going to make this work.
So this is Sean. I'll go ahead and go first.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm wondering what can be done to do more composting at scale. I hear about communities within the county that, pick up leaves off of people's sidewalks. I just heard about the brush program. I've seen in the past where corporations have tried to do composting from their cafeterias. I'm sure there are restaurants and other producers, whether it be, some of our local beer industry or whether it be local farms or anything like that. But there seems to be a lot of material being produced that is compostable. And I'm wondering what the county is going to do to maybe coordinate those efforts and help us compost at scale. I love composting in my backyard. I think it's great. I encourage everyone to go to those trainings, but I'd like to see what can we do at scale.
John, for the people in the group that are not as familiar with composting or solid waste facilities, can you share a little bit by what you mean at scale?
Sure. So many of us may be familiar with the composters that Michelle was showing, where you've got this little, 3-foot cube bin that you put in your backyard. You throw your food scraps in there. You throw some fall leaves in there. You throw some coffee grounds in there. You wait a while and you get this black magic that comes out the other side. And it's great. But it's one person or one family doing something in their backyard. When we think about doing this at scale, it's how do we do this at like a county level? How do we get different organizations? Like I said, if we look at some of the cities inside Hamilton County, they go around street by street vacuuming up people's leaves that they rake to the side of their yard. What do we do with those leaves, right? When we look at some of the companies that operate in our county and the waste that they create, think about a Starbucks and all the coffee grounds that they're creating. Those two things together, right there, make great compost. How could we bring all of those together, mix that stuff up, let it age, turn that in, let it go through the composting process? How could we reach out to like I said, like the breweries, for example? I know a lot of them are sending stuff off to farms and whatnot, but maybe there are other materials. Restaurants, there's always lots of food scraps. How could we collect that, not just one restaurant at a time, but set up a program across the county where, like Rumpke comes to your door today and picks up your trash and your recycling? Could they pick up your compostable material and bring that in to be composted? Could we have large scale equipment, windrow aerators that, run down the length of a farm field, flipping this composting material, lots of leaves, lots of organic matter from the restaurants or whatever, something where, it's not just a 3x3 bin in your backyard, but it is windrows upon windrows of material out on, acres and acres of land composting over time.
Great way to kick it off, Sean. Thank you. Because as some of you know, and many of you may not, food waste is the largest component of the landfill waste stream in this region. And you're right, there's some composting going on in people's backyards, but how do we get it? I guess the number one question I need to pose to the group along that intro, Sean, is how would we get this material collected from businesses and residents? And I would love to hear from some of the communities on that one, and maybe even Rumpke.
I'll speak for Rumpke. We did dabble in compost collection, not on a residential level, but on a commercial level. There was some things we did have to work through. It's often heavier is one of the problems with the food waste specifically. The containers need to be cleaned more often. But really the biggest problem was of where to take that material. The composting facilities in this region all slowly closed for various reasons. So right now there's not an approved location to take that material. And so we actually had to exit that line of business.
So, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but it sounds like if there was a facility, you did have some customers that were willing to pay the extra fee, go through the extra steps to have the food collected. Is that correct?
On the commercial side, we did specifically a lot of the local universities utilized that. Miami University was one of the bigger ones that utilized it. We had some grocery stores, I believe some Walmart locations that utilized it, but it was on a commercial level.
Okay. Looks like Karen Hurley's hand is up. Is it not? Sorry.
Sue Magnus.
Sue
Yes,
Mangus,
and my hand is not up.
Okay.
Yeah, I represent the city of Cincinnati, and yeah, I believe that lack of infrastructure for both our food waste and for yard waste is pretty much a problem. It's really come to light that although Rumpke, like Molly just mentioned, that they used to compost and they used to have agreements with Pagro to compost that material. A lot of the material is coming in too contaminated, and they're not able to compost it anymore. So I think there's two problems that one, we have to increase education to reduce the contamination, because in the city we have trucks to pick up the yard waste separately, but it's not getting diverted. It's still ending up in the landfill. They are using it for cover, but again, it's still not diverted. You know, the real intent of the separate yard waste collection is really to divert it from the landfill.
So to make the economics of a composting facility work, one, you have to have a product that people are willing to sell or willing to purchase. I think one of the downfalls of the early composting programs is we gave the compost away. So my question for the group, how do we get people to want to purchase compost in Hamilton County?
I can tell you that Milorganite, which is marketed originally out of Milwaukee, it was composted human waste, right? So if you bag it up and put a nice brand name on it, people will buy it. I mean, there's plenty of bagged compost that you can go to, name a big box store, name a local nursery, and they're selling compost by the bag. So there's a market out there.
But it sounds like, I think you raised a really good point there, Sean, that expecting people, you're only going to have a small group of people that are going to pick it up loose. So maybe it does need to be bagged. Other people, how do we make a composting infrastructure successful? How do we get people willing to pay for the collection, purchase the product, maybe pay more for composting than landfill disposal?
Need to make it easy and convenient. And they definitely need a lot more education as to why it benefits them.
Thank you.
Is there a way to possibly do this on a township level where each township has their own composting, or something that's a little bit more central? Nobody wants to drive 30 or 45 minutes to compost materials. And I forget her name, but the one woman just said a lot of the stuff they got was contaminated. So I don't know entirely what all goes into that, but is it that it needs to be done more frequently? So there's a more convenient solution that we need to look into?
Sheila, I know you're from Anderson and I see you on the screen. Would that be viable to have, maybe not every township, but the larger ones? What do you think about something like that?
I know that we just had a meeting with what was it called? Go Zero last week with Gage, and I forgot who else was involved, but they do composting. We're looking a little bit more into it, but right now it's a struggle with our huge recycling center that we have, getting stuff in there that's not contaminated. So how do we get the residents to not throw their, yogurt containers in with their yogurt? You know what I mean? Like they're not even recycling what they should be recycling. So I think in our recycling center is a major headache. Even though we're trying, the residents or whoever, not just the residents of Anderson, but Claremont or Mount, City of Cincinnati, whoever, they're just abusing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know some communities start with pre-consumer food waste first, like kitchen scraps, and kind of get that program mature before they start layering in the residential. Any other thoughts on how I think the composting food waste, what could R3Source do to help educate people? And I know there was a woman that introduced herself, to change people's consumer habits and what they purchase as far as food goes. I mean, the average household throws away about $1,500 worth of food a year. So how do we change that dynamic?
what pressure is being put on the manufacturers of all the goods? Because it's hard to buy salad that's not prepackaged unless you're buying raw ingredients or whatever. So, I mean, the consumer has a lot to do with it, but the producers also have to take some more initiative in decreasing.
Okay, more producer responsibility. Thank you. And an iPod too. Your name is, so I don't call you iPad.
My name's Joe Croner.
Joe, hi. Thank
I'm here
you,
to
Joe.
listen and learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think if we looked at successful counties and cities who are diverting organics from their landfill, I think they have moved, and I could be wrong, but I think many have moved beyond the voluntary program to policies that require source separation and potential ramifications for poor behavior. So I would be really interested to see if the district could identify 2 or 3 other counties who are doing it really well and tell us what policies they have that we might be able to replicate.
Okay, thank you. And obviously there's a lot going on in California in that realm, but I don't know as many in the Midwest, but that's an excellent suggestion. Anybody else before we go on to the next issue? Any other ideas about food?
Well, to build on the idea of the producers, you know, I just recently composted a box from EC30. So Procter & Gamble has a waterless product line called EC30. You can go to ec30clean.com and look it up. But they're boxes that they ship you these like little shampoo containers, these little hand wash or detergent or toilet cleaner. They come in compostable boxes. That was part of their eco message early on. And I know, you know, a lot of large companies are looking to go, you know, zero landfill and stuff like that. So a large part of that is their product packaging. So, you know, you've got a great resource in P&G being one of the largest, you know, consumer product goods companies in the world right here in Hamilton County. I don't know if there's a way to partner with them on messaging that goes on packaging, you know, whether that be recycling, you know, clear recycling marks, what kind of stuff can be recycled, what can't, what can be composted, what can't. You know, maybe there's an opportunity there to partner with manufacturers to do a better job of labeling on their products so that we educate the consumers. Because I know, you know, I heard the comment about the yogurt container. You know, it goes back and forth as I look at different materials, whether those yogurt containers are recyclable or not. Are they really the right kind of plastic that can be recycled? Somewhere I see it says you can, somewhere I see it says you can't. I'm confused, and I'm someone that's actively trying to figure this out. So if we could get more help from the producers, that would be great. And then one other comment, you picked up on bag compost earlier, and you asked about what could we do with loose compost. I can tell you, you know, now that China doesn't take a lot of materials back from the US, those pallets end up getting chipped up and turned into dyed mulch that gets put on, and all the landscapers are selling this. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to work with the landscapers in the community. I don't know all of them by name, but, you know, maybe like an Evans or something like that, that as they go around, you know, you can apply compost as a form of fertilizer for your yard. I mean, there's plenty of grass in this area that could benefit from, you know, being fertilized with compost, and that can definitely be applied loose as opposed to by the bag. So there's an opportunity there to partner with the landscaping community and the wholesalers and whatnot to maybe sell that at a larger scale as opposed to bagging it. Just a thought for a downstream place to purchase that. So
no, and that's an excellent idea, because there's definitely distinct markets. There's the retail market, which is direct to consumer, but then there's also the landscaper type market where that's a completely different end user. And just very interesting, Sue, on your comment, and Sean. So I rarely drink diet soda, and I got a Diet Mountain Dew this weekend, and the lid on the top said, keep the lid on the bottle to recycle, which I'm like, because everyone gets that messed up. So I think that's a great idea about reaching out to companies like P&G. Anyone else on the food waste before we move on to someone else's next issue?
I'd like to make
Yes, Nathan, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Nathan and I'm a sustainability analyst at Triac. We're a sustainability and consulting company in Mason, Ohio, that specializes in product packaging and life cycle assessment. And in fact, P&G is one of our clients who uses our LCA software. Just on the recycling for packaging, there's this great organization called How to Recycle, which is trying to create a standardized labeling system. And it's really great. It says, for example, if you have a spray bottle, it'll have a label on there that says, remove the spray component, toss that, and then recycle the bottle or whatever else. So it gives much more specific, transparent instructions. I'm also interested to know how, if there has been any reach out to companies, brands, manufacturers, at least local ones, and if they are having any, if they're showing any need for this data behind their environmental impact, or how they could make changes to their designs. I'm wondering if they're asking for that or if there's been any outreach. Thank you.
Data as far as the life cycle analysis and impact of whatever product they're selling?
Right, or asking how they could change their designs or how they could implement different strategies to make a smaller environmental impact.
I'm going to defer that to Resource. Have any businesses reached out to you for information like that?
Not exactly. So we do a lot of technical assistance to help businesses reduce their waste that they're generating, whether it be an industry or retail operation, an office. But I love the way you're thinking. It's much larger scale than Hamilton County, right? And you're talking about kind of like the National Recycling Coalition or Sustainable Materials Management with US EPA. I do think there are conversations we could help with, but it's certainly not a feasible task for us to take on, as a county agency, but certainly something that I'm interested in and that I hear about at conferences, I would say. And I think Sue also had her hand raised. You might have something to add to.
Yeah, because right now we're having a debate in the city of Cincinnati with our DORA districts, which are designated outdoor drinking areas. And because Rumpke recently announced that they can recycle plastic cups, but the cups that they recycle are primarily the plastic number are not typically the compostable plastic cups. And so the DORA district managers, they had done research and they had determined that even if they could not compost a compostable cup, that there was less pollution created making the compostable cup versus the plastic, say, #1 cup. And I couldn't answer that question. I don't know. Is it better to purchase a plastic cup that can be recycled, or is it better to purchase a compostable cup that gets landfilled?
And I don't know the answer to this, Sue. This is Molly, but I wanted to go back to the conversation about end users or producers coming out and doing research about their own packaging. Having P&G in our backyard, I will say that P&G frequents our recycling facility. They've done numerous tests to see how different products interact with the recycling facility to see if it can be properly sorted, and then do tests with us to see if our end users can recycle those, and then partner with us to see if we can find end users for those. One of the great partnership is the fact that we are now accepting #5 plastics, those tubs and some of those cups that are those #5s is through those partnerships that we do have with P&G. So yes, they are working with us, and we've had other industries come out beyond P&G. We do have those conversations quite regularly because they do want to make sure they're being as sustainable as possible, and they are adapting their packaging accordingly. So I just did want to throw that out. But the DORA cup conversation, we do want to look into how much energy and all that stuff so we can provide factual information. I don't think we know the answer to that yet. Still relatively new.
Well, it sounds like maybe Nathan can help. You guys might want to chat offline. Anyone else on the food waste before we go to another topic? This was excellent conversation.
John
Yes,
Anderson?
John, hi.
Yes, I have a couple of things that were in the discussion a while back. Getting consumers involved in knowing what to recycle, what to compost is still a problem, I think, because here at Maple Knoll, when I look at some of the places where recycling is collected, there's a lot of different stuff that shouldn't be in there. And people are not really super educated. Two things. One, visits to a recycling plant, I think, can be really useful. I understand Rumpke doesn't do that anymore. I wish they did. When we lived in Florida, it was a help to the community when folk in our center there would go and visit and see what happens to get encouragement to take active part and also to get trained. The material that's put up on the wall is not always sufficiently clear to get everybody to do it right. So I would like to see some way of getting good information out, maybe with somebody that can come to places and talk about that sort of thing. And the other item is education in the school system. We have a Montessori preschool here at Maple Knoll. We're fortunate in that. They are taught how to garden, and they're also taught how to compost. And even discussing recycling at that age is not a bad idea. But also in the regular public school systems, I'd like to see active efforts to get kids to learn early on that composting and recycling can be useful to their lives.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And even maybe taking a step further of educating children that an ugly apple is still edible. Anyone else?
I had one other thing to
Laura.
add to specifically address your question on how we get people to reduce their food consumption waste. And I'm not overly familiar with the Wasted Food Stops With Us campaign, which might be another concern because I've been a Hamilton County resident for 12 years, but I would like to see more about what you're doing with that. But what I was curious is if a part of that campaign was educating consumers on how much money they would save by meal planning. I know I saw on the feed, somebody said you can't fix laziness, and I completely agree. So if you try to teach people in a way that they'll be able to see that direct way of how it will benefit them. And obviously everybody always wants to save money. So I think making that a big initiative of the campaign could help.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I am fortunate to do this work all over the country, world. Many people are calling for let's have home economics again, but amp it up. Anyone else? Thank you, Laura. I do.
Can I make a comment?
Of course.
As an economist, there's only two things I really know about economics, and one is that people respond to incentives, and the other one is that people avoid costs. And the problem with encompasses all of what people are talking about here is that learning to recycle, learning to avoid diverting things to the waste to the landfill, all of that is a cost to people. Information is costly. And so what you got to do is you got to figure out some incentive to overcome that lack of information. And until you provide incentives, people aren't going to do what you think is, the right thing to do. People would like to do what the right thing is to do, but they're only going to do it if they can avoid the cost. And simply deciding which plastic goes in the bin and which doesn't is a cost. So all of it goes in the garbage because it's too hard. And hard is a cost. So I think if you think about it in terms of costs and benefits, that's where you got to start your analysis of any program or any idea to solve any of these problems.
Outstanding insight. Thank you. You should teach.
I do.
I know. Molly, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there any chance that Rumpke might start doing tours again? I know you're very excited about your Columbus facility.
We do tours. We've been doing them for quite some time. I think all this year we've been doing tours. They book up pretty quick right now because there is a backlog from previous, but we are doing tours. I do think it is very helpful. The schools are slowly letting us back in to do educational programs. I know that Michelle's team is also getting back into the schools to do educational programs. I do agree that starting from the early age and teaching them and they teach their parents is also helpful. I agree, putting a flyer up's not enough. I think having that conversation is helpful. I also would like to have people standing by drop boxes smacking hands when people put the wrong thing in, but that's not really realistic.
Oh, sure it is. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you guys are back up and running with the tours. So
yes, if you would like to take a tour, please do reach out.
And then do you guys have videos of your site?
We do. And actually, we just updated our story of Rumpke that showcases the recycling facility to now include the robots. I'll be sending that out here, so we'll be posting that to YouTube. And then we just did a new landfill tour as well to help explain that process and how landfills are built.
Thank you. Thank you. How about someone else? Thank you, Sean, for getting this great conversation going. What is another solid waste issue that you would like to see this planning process address?
I have a comment and a question. Can you hear me?
Sure. Stephen? Yes.
Steve Boyce, Anderson Township.
Hi.
My wife and I purchase dozens of cubic yards of mulch from Evans every year for our yard. And if that were, and that has a cost, and if the cost were less, I would be happy to acquire it either from Evans at a reduced price because they're getting the raw material from the county and they could have a separate grade or whatever. That would be an incentive for yard waste. And I also remember that the county at one point used to recycle Christmas trees for the parks, for mulch on the parks. So I don't know if that's a seasonal program or if that's an ongoing program, but that would also be a place where the bulk yard waste could be mulched and delivered and utilized. And that would also prospectively reduce costs for the Parks Department. So that's just one idea. Then I have just a quick question. We also do recycling, and it's never been clear to me why you can recycle a water bottle or a Mountain Dew bottle with the cap on it, that's all PETE recycle number one. But you can't recycle like the salad container, boxes with the lid attached, which is also PETE. And there's nowhere to go with that. So that we throw in the trash because there's nowhere to deliver it where it can be recycled. So is there going to be any kind of an expansion of the recycling of the PETE containers so that because we have actually more of those than we do water bottles or soda bottles?
I'm so glad I joined today, Karen. It feels like I'm on the spot all the time. For those that don't know, we recently expanded our acceptable items list last year to include tubs. So the yogurt containers I put in the chat, those are now accepted, as is now cups. That was something that was just added back in February, and we've been trying to get the news out. Fortunately, we launched that the day the snowstorm came through town. So, snow trumps recycling. So I don't think that word has gotten out yet, but we're working on getting that out. We recently installed robots in our plant that it's helping to help sort this other material out. And we've also partnered with some new end users, long-term end users that this material has an outlet for. We are actively looking for the ability to recycle additional types of materials, such as those clamshell containers that you're discussing. But right now, the end users don't want them. They are made differently than a bottle or a jug. Just because they're the same resin doesn't mean they're made the same, so they don't melt the same, so they can't be made into the same products. So that is something that we are actively working on to figure out how to separate them out. And these robots could be that key, but also having end users that want that material.
This is Ken Wright. It seems to me that there's labeling problem here. I mean, we put the number one on things that are not really the same, obviously, and that's confusing to the consumer. So somewhere up the line, we've got to make it easier for the consumers, because, you know, I scratch my head when they say this number one is okay and this one isn't.
Yeah,
Right,
the
but the
numbers
state of
people should
California is getting
remember-
away from the numbers.
Yeah, the
Right,
numbers people should remember, that's just a resin code, and that doesn't mean that there are end markets or that it's recyclable. It is simply a code. It's no different than in saying this is red or this is black.
Right.
Look at the shape of the container: bottles, jugs, tubs, cups. That's what we want right now.
Anything you can kind of sort of drink out of in a little bit of a way.
Yeah.
One question for the group that Steve brought up, kind of an interesting point. Steve, you had brought up that you would be interested in purchasing compost if it costs less. Would people pay more for compost if it was made out of food waste and kept food out of the landfill? And Doug, that kind of goes into your world as well. I mean, how far could we push people to do the right thing and pay more?
Well, getting people to pay more for anything is difficult. You know, right now, everybody's complaining about, you know, inflation and prices and things like that. So they're certainly not going to go to the extra trouble of paying for something that a problem they can solve for free. By the way, throwing my recycling in the garbage and having it dumped at the landfill is, to me, free. I pay for the service, but it's the decision I have to make that is a cost to me. And again, that number one, number two, number three, number four, all it's meaningless stuff. You know, I'm constantly going through my mother-in-law's garbage or recycling bin, pulling out the stuff that she can't recycle. She just doesn't know. And for her, she's not going to learn the difference. So it's tough. Maybe Rumpke can do something to help us better understand what can and can't be recycled at the point of recycling. I know there's a big label on the top of my recycling container, but if it had pictures of the things that I can recycle, you know, if somehow you could get to us some kind of a stick on or something like that and put it, you know, right where people will see it at the point of decision making, it'll reduce the cost of making that decision.
And that would
Thank
be in
you.
your kitchen, likely, where the point of decision making is happening. And we have discussed, you know, how do we get that inside the household? The city of
Right.
Cincinnati has been doing stuff with indoor recycling containers, and that's been an interesting thing as well. But I also go back to the idea of having people stand next to the curb smacking hands. You know, I think that's got merit to it.
Molly, don't you have another meeting?
I do.
Well,
lunch.
if getting your hand smack is a cost, I would avoid that too.
There you go.
I think
Thank you.
I think they
What are
do
some
that in
other
Japan,
issues
actually.
that you would like to see the plan address?
This is Gwen here.
Hi, Gwen.
I first want to give a shout out to the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. If you guys have not been there, like I said in my intro, we opened on April 1st of last year. So we're not even a year old, and we've recycled 100 tons of stuff already. We
Wow.
are 100% grant and donation based. We are 18 women and 1 man on our board, and it's all volunteer.
Can you
So-
explain a little bit more for the people on the call what the recycling hub is? I had the fortune to go and visit it, but can you share a little bit about that?
It's absolutely amazing, and we are not competing with anything. We are partnering. So we can take number 2 through 7. And Stephen, to your point, number 1, clamshells and all those other weird number 1 things that aren't bottles and jugs. Bottles and jugs can go to Rumpke, but those other salad containers and clamshells, we literally had a volunteer spend 2 months calling all over the country, and we finally found a resource somewhere in Southern California that said they would recycle it. So we would have to collect an entire semi truck of baled plastic and pay for shipping to California just to recycle those things.
Right.
So on that note, number 1, and the first comment I put in here to start with is we need to stop the recycling conversation, and we need to start the reduce and reuse conversation. Don't buy salad in a plastic container. Go to your grocery store and complain about it every single time it's in there. And they will get sick of hearing from you. But if we all en masse go in there and complain about it, they'll find another way to sell salad. Okay, we are consumers and we need to spend with our dollars. So off my high horse to what is the Recycling and Reuse Hub? We are, like I said, 100% based on grants and donations, and we recycle a lot of hard to recycle items that you cannot recycle curbside. So we take number 2 through number 7 plastics. We take a lot of TerraCycle items, and if you're not familiar with TerraCycle, please look it up, but potato chip bags and candy wrappers, and we have a Kroger brand flexible film. So anything you buy that's a Kroger brand salad container or potato chips or whatever, we can get a little bit of money off that. We can recycle toothpaste tubes and old toothbrushes and netting from your onion bags and orange bags, and just, I mean, I could, styrofoam, electronics, light bulbs, batteries. Some of the stuff is for a fee, and the only reason we charge a fee is because we have to pay for it too. So batteries, light bulbs, electronics, things like that are based on fees, but a lot of our other stuff is collected for free. So I see somebody, thank you, Laura Miller, already for putting so much, putting that into the chat box. But if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, I'll put my email in there as well. It's, like I said, we are 100% volunteer at this point. Actually, that's not true. We did just hire a part-time person with one of our grants about a month ago. But 99% volunteer based, and we've already recycled 100 tons of stuff since April 1st. So there is obviously a need for this. I'll give a little shout out. If we're doing a solid waste district plan, maybe we could start helping to pay and subsidize some of these hard to recycle materials. But again, I think the conversation really needs to move away from what do we do with the waste after we've used it to let's stop creating it or purchasing it in the first place. And then we don't have to have the sending our clamshells to California to try and quote unquote recycle it, because we're not going to recycle our way out of this mess.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Gwen.
I just like to
I'm
comment.
going to stay on that topic just for a second and throw a question up to the group. So we have this great hub. And so how do we facilitate the spokes as far as, you know, it's great when individual residents drive down there, but how could we consolidate some of this material on a community level and then get it down there?
Community drop-off locations. If it's easy and convenient for people to just drop these things off. I know I'm familiar with the organization, and they had some events last year where you could drop things off, but if it was something where I'm on my way to Kroger and I can drop this stuff off on the way, and there's a drop-off location in different communities around the tri-state, it would be very beneficial.
And Karen, I will just jump in here to say that that is in our 5-year plan. But again, only being open 10 months, it hasn't happened yet.
Come on, you've only recycled 100 tons, which is just quite amazing. I mean, for those of you who aren't working with the numbers, that's a lot of material. How about some other people? How can we get more of these specialty materials down to the hub? Okay. All right, we'll table that for now. More issues, people. Yes.
Yeah, just an idea. Somehow, you know, communities participating in the RRI could somehow, you know, have to create some kind of a drop off, or, you know, for certain items, there could be an incentive through that program to get us to put some collection points at our fire departments.
So Sue, I know what RI is, but will you share with the group, because some people may not?
Oh, so for communities, and that's why I was thinking about, you know, when your question was, how can we get more communities to, you know, more places in the community for drop-offs? the RRI stands for Residential Recycling Incentive Program. And the solid waste resource, they from the income they have, they incentivize the communities to recycle through this program. So we report our recycling numbers and then we get a percentage of that money back. Or can you clarify that, Michelle? How would you describe that? Because I think my tongue just got tied.
So the residential recycling incentive, we budget right now $900,000 a year. And think of it as a pie. We split up that pie. Communities report to us how many tons they've diverted. And that includes composting, and it also includes reuse. So if they have an event where they're collecting clothing for Goodwill, they can count that tonnage. And it goes, it creates a diversion rate, and there's tiers and that's the incentive part. There's 5 percentage point tiers, and the higher your diversion rate, the more dollars per ton you receive. So it's just an incentive to get communities to increase their diversion rates.
And get to choose the way they do it. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Michelle. More topics.
I'd like to jump in because this kind of goes hand in hand with a couple of things that were just asked and addressed, and trying to educate people on what to recycle or what not to recycle. And this could further help improve what people are turning into the recycling reuse hub. The way that I learned that I was completely recycling all of the wrong things was just in my community newsletter. I live in North Bend, Ohio, and they do, I don't even know if it's biannually or quarterly, but they had a little section in there that listed everything that we were allowed to recycle curbside. And just something like that is so easy for people to put in all of their community newsletters.
Okay, thank you. Or websites.
True.
Did Karen freeze on anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, she's frozen.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully she comes back to us, but if there's anything else anyone wants to chime in with, I see we have electronics recycling drive. Someone suggested in the chat. So also you can throw in ideas in the chat. So please chime in if you've got something. Doug, did you have something?
Can I chime in?
Oh, absolutely, Sharon.
Okay, here in Whitewater Township, I've been working on, this is totally different off of what we were just discussing, but I've come up against a brick wall on trying to get the residents and businesses to start recycling in the first place. I was working with Rumpke, been great to work with on promotion in the township. We did have a few, maybe about 20 residents jump on board with recycling initiative. Is there, people just aren't gonna, they're just not gonna recycle if they have to pay anything. It's just nerve wracking. And just trying to get like our local VFW with all the, if they have to pay anything, they won't. I'm hoping to figure out some ways just to get residents on board and the businesses to start recycling in the first place. So I don't know if that's something that can be in the 5-year plan on ways to reach out to people. I don't know.
I'll make a comment about the electronics. You can take electronics like old computers and video screens to Cohen, and they'll weigh it and give you a few dollars for it. And there's also a computer reuse center that's out in, I think, Grain Township or somewhere, where they will take, recent model computers and rehab them and then redistribute them to the school systems or other places. So those are a couple of alternatives. Where Cohen, you actually get a few dollars. At the computer donation center, you can have a tax write-off. So they'll give you a receipt for it and put a value on it, or you can put a value on it, just like giving something to Goodwill. But that way it doesn't end up in the landfill, at least not as soon.
Sorry, everyone, I lost power for a second there. Any other, okay, anything else along the lines of education? And outreach. Got something, oh, it's from Michelle, okay.
One idea that they had in the city of Austin, Texas, in order to increase recycling there, what they did is they passed an ordinance which required every property owner to provide recycling access. So they had to provide garbage and recycle service. People weren't required to do it, but at least the infrastructure was there, and they doubled the amount of recycling that they collected by that policy.
Yeah, and I actually, so I did some research on that program, and about 94% of the multifamily establishments complied with no problem, and they were able to get the other 6. I mean, so when you hear that multifamily does not want to do it, it was, it was pretty seamless there. I'm not saying that's universal, but they really didn't get a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
So what other issues would you like this plan to address? Is everyone good with the collection system? I know Michelle just, put in the messaging that, in the areas that have subscription waste collection, where people get to choose whether or not they even have garbage collection, they tend to have the lowest recycling rates. They also have some of the highest open dumping rates. Is that something of concern to the people on this call?
That is my number one concern.
I'm so sorry, what?
I said that is probably my number one concern, is the lack of recycling efforts in the like Whitewater Township.
Okay.
If there's more incentives to get people to recycle in the first place.
And in Whitewater Township, I'm assuming that's a township where people can choose their waste hauler, correct? And they can choose whether or not to even have a waste hauler.
Correct.
And then is recycling an additional amount on the garbage bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the economists might tell us that having to pay that bill might lead to dumping.
Absolutely.
But, have you talked to Rumpke, Sharon, about getting it?
Yes,
Anderson has like a bulk rate. So the residents aren't technically paying extra for recycling. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of built in.
So it's one price for all? I mean,
it's kind of like you said, whether you recycle or not, you're going to basically pay for it. I don't know if that sounds right. Dean's.
No, it does. Yeah. It's not itemized.
So
we call it the preferred pricing in Anderson Township. So
there you go.
It's all rolled in one cost. In Warren County, they have a ordinance, and I hate even talking about this, that requires that if you offer trash service, you have to have recycling service included in your cost. However, the economists will find it interesting. We're not really seeing a huge increase in the number of participation out in Warren County, even though it's already included in the cost. It still goes back to socio and economic factors. Dean's got a new computer. He might not be able to unmute himself.
So Molly, or either Molly or someone from Anderson, when Anderson went to a system where it was not a la carte, lack of a better term, did Anderson see an increase in in your recycling tonnages?
They were a pretty good recycler to begin with, so we would have to go back because they've been doing that for a little bit of time. We have something similar in Green Township, and Colerain Township even is a good one. So Michelle, maybe you could speak to Colerain Township, or Jeff could speak to Colerain Township and what we saw when it was all included in the service.
Yeah, so Colerain is a little bit different because they actually went out to contract and on behalf of their residents. So it was rolled out and all residents and received recycling bins. So theirs is a little bit different, whereas Green Township, it's still subscription. You can still decide to have Rumpke or a different hauler, but it's like Anderson, where if you choose Rumpke, then your recycling is automatically included at that cost. So you don't have to recycle, but there's not an additional cost. And that cost is a huge factor. You know, we've seen that over and over again when we've done focus group studies. Residents do not want to pay $3 a month, even if it's a small amount, because they feel like I'm doing something good. Why should I have to pay for it? And also Rumpke's making all this money on this recycling. So why, which is just not the case. It's very costly to collect, but it's a perception that they do. So we have seen big increases, and I would have to look up, but I know Colerain Township used to have like a 5% diversion rate. They're up much higher than that. Maybe Gage or Jeff would be able to tell me what their percentage is, but I want to say it's up in the teens, up in the low teens now. And Green Township also had a boost when they kind of converted their program. So if you can make it so there is that you remove that cost barrier, you will get more participation. You won't get everybody, but it does help a lot.
If the containers, if the receptacles could be provided to the residents and included in their trash pickup bill, just as, you know, you got two receptacles, and that's what I do at home. I do pay the extra fee, but that's where I'm up against a brick wall with people recycling. But if we could get a program where, like say with Rumpke, that the 2 receptacles are provided and for the same cost, the participation would increase dramatically.
It makes it much easier when you have that big container and you feel like I'm not paying it. You know, it's so much easier. Just, yeah, they got to make it easy.
And if the label is put on the recycling receptacle that shows what is recycled. I also own Green Acres Kayak Rental, and I've got labels on the recycling receptacles. I was shocked at the customers' participation with recycling, and they're coming off the river, they're recycling the products, because I've got signs and labels on the receptacles, and they're putting the garbage in the garbage and the recycling in the recycling, and it's a huge success.
Outstanding.
Our trash containers have pictures on them, Sharon. Like, yeah, I mean, they're the big wheelie containers. Molly, help me out. I don't know what they are.
They're called recycling carts, and they're on
there
the
you go.
lid of the carts. Yeah, they are on the lid of the carts.
But I did like the idea that somebody brought up as far as supplementing the signage on the carts with signage in your household bin. Because I do think by the time people get to the cart, they're going to dump that whole bin in. So whoever brought that idea up, I think that was brilliant.
This is Karen Hurley. Can I jump in on this?
Yes.
I know, Karen, when you were kind of introducing this round, you alluded to the fact that not having trash collection at all is a big problem in terms of just dumping and all. And I guess my concern, I'm all in favor of having recycling included as a non-discretionary part of a trash contract. But I want to go beyond that and say every resident has to have a contract for trash removal. I mean, there is no reason why anybody should be trying to think of how to dispose of their trash when they don't have trash pickup. And what's happening is local commercial establishments are finding people putting all their garbage in their dumpsters, or other neighbors who have trash collection have their neighbors coming over and putting their stuff in their cans. I mean, this is just really a serious problem. And I know the county commissioners don't like to think of mandates. And so maybe we have to find a different word for this. But we have
non-discretionary. I like that word, Karen.
Yeah, non-discretionary trash pickup, including recycling. That would be my goal for the 5-year plan.
No, and it's interesting that I live in the city, but I live next to a township, and I walk a lot, and I can't tell you how many times I see really nice cars dumping trash into the apartment complex dumpsters and driving downtown the other way. So yeah, thank you, Karen.
It's also a problem with our recycling drop-offs. People who don't have garbage collection are using our recycling drop-offs for their garbage, and then all the efforts that were made are useless because we have to trash that whole recycle dumpster when that happens. And in the city, we've had to close 3 of our drop-offs because of this dumping problem. So I think we kind of got to get a, like, I really think Doug Haskell has a point here that this has to have economically, there has to be an economic incentive for this type of behavior change, because people are not going to change their behaviors if there's not an economic consequence.
So I would love to open this one up to the group. Other thoughts on what Karen and Sue brought up?
Can you install Ring cameras and make sure people realize there could be penalties and fines if they're seen dumping these materials?
Exactly.
We're about to go that route. Yeah. Our recycling center, we probably have the biggest recycling center in the area in Anderson. And we struggle with dumping a lot. Toilets are not recycled. I mean, you can't put a couch in the recycling, but that's what they're doing. The Public Works Department every Monday is spending hours cleaning up trash from our recycling center. Yeah. So the cameras are our next step. And then we will work with the Sheriff's Department on citations.
Exactly.
To see if it cuts it down. Yeah.
So kind of distilling that, maybe the county needs a camera and a slap on the wrist program where, where you could help communities with camera programs and or getting people to sit there and slap wrists.
This is Dean Ferrier from Rumpke. I'll chime in back to what Karen said before. So,
which Karen? Karen me or Karen Hurley?
Karen Hurley, and I know Jeff Leckbach from Colerain's on the call. So when Colerain and Springfield went out to bid and contracted those townships 7 years ago now, one of the requirements in that contract was mandatory service at home. And to this day, the township, I know, passed an ordinance. It's a law there. And today we still have 15% of the 18,000 households without paying for service at home because they don't pay Rumpke. So we cut them off. We're doing all the billing for that. Where a lot of cities, the city controls a utility or puts it on a water bill. We're doing all the billing for that. So, the government has it imposed. It's there. It's a law. And if somebody doesn't pay us for service, we're not going to provide the service. And last time I checked, we're at about 15% of the households in Colerain do not pay for service at home, even though it's a law.
And Dean, who's going to have time to chase those people?
Exactly. It's a cost. It's back to the cost factor.
Sheriffs don't have time to do that. I mean, yeah.
But from a societal standpoint, we're going to pay to clean it up, or we can pay to prevent it.
Or as Dean said, some cities, they franchise out solid waste collection. And I know that's not as common here in Ohio. But then there's different models. And one model is that the city is the entity that does the billing. Because as Dean said, they do have resources like putting it on the water bill.
Yeah. When the city controls how they're imposing a trash recycling fee with that resident through Greater Cincinnati Waterworks, it's usually a no-brainer. 100% of them then pay and they don't have a dumping problem. But you get into those subscription areas or even an area like Colerain where there's not a controlled utility. There's homes without water, just like Whitewater Township. There's no control of the utility to charge the resident. So
Dean, does Rumpke share the list of customers who are not paying with the townships?
We have before with Colerain, we have, and again, it's back to who's going to manage that, who's got the time, who's going to go out and send a nuisance officer out to that house, send them a letter, put a fee on their property taxes. That's up to the township. So
okay,
but
hey, you've got 85. The way I'm looking at it now, there's 85% of the people who are having their garbage picked up, which is better than it was 5 years ago.
Back to what Sharon said before too, just about when Colerain and Springfield went out to contract, probably the first township in Hamilton County 7 years ago, Rumpke has a very tough decision to what we did in Anderson, Green, we did it in Sycamore, we did it in Sims. We went with a preferred pricing model. But what happens is, yeah, we have the dominant market share and most people know that, but we made a decision as a company to only provide 2 services for 1 fee. Well, there's companies out there providing a trash only service at a discount. So that puts Rumpke at a huge disadvantage. So it was a huge decision for Rumpke to do that 7 years ago. And we slowly did a few of them, because we just did them. We just did not do Whitewater, Harrison, and Crosby, I think, are the only 3 left that we did not do that in Hamilton County. So just a big decision on Rumpke's part, why they did that, blended pricing, if you will, combined pricing. And I'm sure Anderson, Green, Sims, and Sycamore, we saw a huge increase in recycling in all those communities because the fee was no longer separate, it was included. I'm sure we did.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Any other thoughts on this particular topic? We have about 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that that everyone has an opportunity to share what their vision is for the Hamilton County waste system. Any other thoughts? Okay,
Karen, I'll just
Michelle?
follow up on what
Yeah.
Dean just said, since no one's chiming in. But absolutely, we've seen an increase. And Warren County, and it's probably been a decade or more ago, and Molly mentioned this briefly, they do have it where if you offer residential trash service, you have to also offer curbside recycling. So all the haulers, not just Rumpke, so Republic, Best Way, I don't know if Best Way's in Warren County, but any hauler, there are other haulers in Rumpke, you would have to also offer curbside recycling. It's not a magic bullet, but that it has been done before and by an adjoining county.
Thank you, Michelle.
I could share one more thing on that point because I'm over all the solid waste districts. Hamilton County's diversion rate for residential homes is better than Warren County's. They have a countywide, blended rate, and the whole, there's a lot of townships up there that are subscription, but Hamilton County's residential diversion rate is better than Warren County's as a whole.
But are you just comparing the townships to township or all of Hamilton County to Warren County?
So if you look at the entire residential diversion rate, including contracted cities within Hamilton County and all the townships, compared to Warren County as a whole, all their contracted cities and subscription townships, Warren County's or Hamilton County is a slightly better overall diversion. We're all in the 15, 16, 17%, I think. Is that right, Michelle? The whole county, if I remember right.
Yeah, just residentially, we're usually around 14%.
14, yeah.
Pure recycling, not yard waste bundled in, correct? Sue, yeah.
I had another thought because the Hamilton County R3Source has an environmental officer, Officer Peak, and I was wondering if there's any way that with his background, he could help Colerain with that enforcement.
There's no way. He doesn't have time to reach out to that many households.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of like reactive instead of proactive on preventing. Yeah. So it'd have to be a separate program. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very, very much. As I shared in the beginning, there is an online survey that we ask a few more kind of objective questions. We wanted this to be subjective and give your input. Michelle, I believe part of the planning process, at the end of the planning process, there is another public meeting, correct?
Yes, that's after, that's during our ratification process after the plan has been written.
Right. But we wanted your input as the strategies are being formulated. So.
Karen, when
Yes.
will that you mentioned like you've got comments from 800 people. When are we going to get a summary kind of that? I think going through 800 comments would be a little difficult.
Oh, no. So I'm presenting some of the more policy oriented ones, Sue, tomorrow.
Okay.
At the policy committee meeting. We decided to keep the survey open to the beginning of April. We want to do another push to get a little more diversity in the responses. So we're doing some targeting, or I should say R3Source is doing targeted outreach. So probably mid-April, I can, number crunch. I'm doing some cross tabulation. Some of the results are really interesting as far as that goes. So
Thank you.
so you'll get an appetizer tomorrow, a
Okay.
teaser.
Mhm.
All right. And we're going to try to get this scribed actually tonight. So hopefully by the end of the week, this will also be available, this transcript.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you all
everybody.
so much for coming. It's been very informative. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, everyone. Go enjoy the weather. It's gorgeous out there.